All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the architecture of habits, specifically how these behaviors form, how they repeat, and most importantly, how they can be redesigned. We're exploring something that dictates nearly every single day of your life. But here is the key takeaway right out of the gate. Your habits are not a reflection of your character. They are simply mechanical, learned systems. I want to establish a really clear, calm baseline here. Your habits are not just a matter of willpower, and they certainly aren't a moral failing. They are built, which means, lucky for us, they can be rebuilt. I mean, we've all been there, right? This addresses that exact frustration so many of us feel. You absolutely know you shouldn't grab your phone the second you wake up, but your hand just kind of does it on its own anyway. A habit feels incredibly mysterious because on the surface, it looks like you're making a conscious choice, but it's actually operating like a background program on your computer. Why? Well, because it solves a highly practical problem for your brain. It reduces uncertainty. Every single time your mind has to make a choice from scratch, it spends precious energy. So to save that energy, your brain just runs a background shortcut. To really see this, just compare the first time you do something to a repeated behavior. Picture a busy street corner and a brand new kebab stall just opened up. The very first time that stall opens its doors, every single order requires massive effort. The vendor has to actively decide everything. Wait, what did the customer just ask for? What ingredients do we even have left? What's the very next step? It's a high-effort, full evaluation process. But fast forward a few months of repetition, the stall doesn't decide everything from scratch anymore. A signal comes in, the usual sequence kicks off, and the kebab is made with almost zero friction. Your brain is doing the exact same thing. It literally stops reevaluating and just recognizes the pattern. So, when we say a habit is automatic, it's not some kind of dark, mysterious magic. It's pure efficiency. The brain isn't designed to maximize nobility or long-term perfection. It's designed to conserve effort. Think of your mind like a house with dozens of doors. At first, opening any door takes a bit of effort. But if you keep walking through just one specific door day after day, the handle gets worn completely smooth. It becomes the absolute easiest one to grab the next time you walk by. That well-worn handle, that's your habit. You aren't making a fresh decision at all. You're simply taking the lowest friction, most well-worn footpath available to you. Okay, so let's break down the actual mechanics here. This builds into a highly predictable factory line. Step 1 is the cue. That's the trigger situation that taps your brain on the shoulder. Step 2 is the action, the actual learned behavior or routine you perform. And step 3 is the reward, the payoff. Once you start seeing this mechanism clearly, a habit is no longer just some random thing you do. It's a specific behavior tightly attached to a trigger and kept alive by a payoff. Which naturally brings us to a kind of uncomfortable question. If habits are literally just a mechanical factory line, why on earth do we keep repeating the ones we know are objectively terrible for us? We all carry that internal guilt, don't we? We know the long-term costs of eating junk food, or staying up way too late, or procrastinating on a project. So why isn't our logical, abstract knowledge enough to just stop these unhelpful routines dead in their tracks? Well, this completely flips how we define the word reward. When we hear reward, we almost always picture intense pleasure or joy or a big celebration. But think about things like relief, comfort, distraction, or even just a sense of completion. A habit survives based on what the action does for you in that moment. And sometimes the reward is incredibly quiet. Imagine you're trying to focus on work and there's a window rattling loudly in the wind. Getting up from your desk to close it isn't exactly fun or joyous, but it provides instant relief. That sudden drop in irritation, that becomes the reward. Many of our absolute worst habits survive simply because they make a painful feeling like stress, anxiety, or boredom just a little bit smaller. The brain learns, hey, that action provided an escape, let's do it a bit. And here is the harsh biological reality driving that escape. Your brain aggressively discounts the future. In the epic battle between what feels good right now versus what might cause problems a year from now, right now almost always wins. Knowledge about future consequences is just way too abstract to compete with the immediate visceral experience of relief. It's essentially like borrowing money from next month's budget just because the cash is sitting right there today. Your nervous system is hardwired to prioritize immediate feedback. So you aren't really choosing between good and bad, you're simply choosing between now and later. But wait, it's not all happening inside your head. Consider the hidden machinery all around you, your environment. A habit does not live in a vacuum. It is deeply, deeply tied to its context. Think about a song. A song played softly in a cozy, dimly lit room feels completely different than that exact same track blasted in a packed concert hall. The environment entirely changes the experience. In the same way, you might have totally different habits depending on where you are sitting, what's visible on your desk, or even who is in the room with you. Context is what's actually summoning the habit. This is exactly why you can't just rely on willpower. If your environment keeps handing your brain the exact same signal, your brain is going to keep running the exact same sequence. Right, so how do we actually redesign this? We need a massive paradigm shift here. Most of us try to change a habit through what we call removal. We use sheer white-knuckle willpower to just block the behavior. But blocking a habit creates a vacuum. Think of it like boarding up a doorway in a crowded house, but leaving the people inside with no other way out. They're just going to keep banging on that blocked door because they still need to leave. Instead, you have to use replacement. You absolutely must build a new route that still delivers a useful payoff. Let's walk through something we literally all do to see how this works in real life. Here's a classic old loop. The cue. You arrive home from work, drop your bags, and sit down. The action. You immediately pull out your phone and start scrolling social media. The reward. A mental shutdown, right? A complete distraction from the exhaustion of the day. Now, if you just try to delete the app and force yourself to stop, you're just blocking the door. You're completely ignoring the fact that the scrolling is hiding a very real need to decompress and mark the transition from work mode to home mode. Okay, so here's the hack. The redesigned system, the new loop. We are going to keep the exact same cue arriving home, but we plug a brand new action into the architecture. Maybe it's doing a 5-minute stretch, maybe it's making a specific cup of tea, or reading just one chapter of a book. The absolutely critical part is the reward. It still has to provide that exact same mental decompression. By plugging a new action into the existing machinery, you're respecting your brain's original psychological need for relief, but you're delivering it through a path that actually serves you. And this right here brings us to the ultimate light bulb moment of this whole explainer. A habit is not a blind command that your brain is forced to obey. It is an agreement. It's a learned prediction from your brain stating, hey, when this situation shows up, doing this specific response gives me something useful. And you know the beautiful thing about agreements? They are entirely negotiable. They can be rewritten the moment you understand the machinery behind them. Which leads to this incredibly empowering truth. Habits are architecture, not character. By viewing your behaviors through this lens, the moral burden is completely lifted off your shoulders. You don't have to fight every single habit like it's a personal weakness. You are the architect. Once you see the structure of the cue, the action, and the reward, you can read it, you can predict it, and most importantly, you can redesign it from the ground up. So I'm going to leave you with a bit of a challenge today. The very next time you find yourself automatically reaching for your phone or repeating some routine you're not happy with, do not ask, why am I like this? Instead, just pause, look at the machinery, and ask yourself, what loop is actually being trained here, and how am I going to redesign it?